Curtis Kennedy with us today. Man, I love it when we have fun guests. Well, actually, we always have fun guests, right? but but Curtis, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me on. I'm excited to get stoked with you guys.
Love it. Well, the funny thing is, I completely forgot to tell you who you are, and Curtis has a very interesting story here. We met over at one of the retailer shows over here. I was just kind of kicking around, and there he was, man. And Curtis is the CEO of Symbodi. And I'm going to let him explain what Symbodi is, but we're going to delve into some of the things that he talked about there and what led to that. But without further ado, man, what is Symbodi?
Yeah, so Symbodi is a health and wellness company, and basically the idea for it is, we started thinking about what it is that makes human beings so great, and why is it that we've come so much further than any other species on the planet. And I think it comes down to our ability to use and create tools that extend our physical limitations. And so Symbodi is sort of celebrating that symbiosis that we have with our tools that makes us so great. Because I've always really believed that we innovate to try to improve the efficiency in all that we do. And it's likely that humans will continue to innovate and create new inventions that extend their limitations until some point in the future where our bodies can function with the efficiency of our minds. Our tagline that we use is optimizing to infinity. So Symbodi, So Symbodi was started to participate in making these tools to help people live better lives. Our first product, Vertiball, is a wall-mounted back massager that uses this airlock mounting system. And basically, there's a whole bunch of different attachments that we're developing that go on the mounting system. And you can place it on the wall at any height and target specific areas of your back with total control over where you're applying the pressure and how much pressure is being applied. So, yeah. That's Symbodi in a nutshell.
Well, I'm going to dig into why this is formed, because when we were speaking, the thing that really struck me was the adversity that you've overcome. And ironically, we were just talking to someone in a similar position the other day, but you were young, very young actually, when you had a form of cancer. Is that correct?
Yeah. So it's a part of my story that I don't often share, but I likely should, because it's such a fundamental piece of why it all came together the way it did. And so I guess where it all starts is I was a young kid, very curious, and my grandfather was a mechanical engineer, inventor, and he always had us playing around with motors and gadgets, and got me thinking about inventions. And so that was sort of a passion of mine in my early years. And the real three things when I was a young kid that I wanted to potentially do when I grew up was either one, be an astronaut, two, be an NHL hockey player, or three, being an inventor. And so anyway, fast forward a little bit, and I was playing high-level hockey, and it was going really well. And so the NHL dream was sort of taking priority over the other things. And about midway through one of the seasons, I had this big lump on my leg, and I got it taken out. And I remember we went to the doctor, and the word I heard was cancer. I didn't really hear anything other than that for the rest of the session. But so they sent this tumor, what ended up being a tumor, off to a whole bunch of different hospitals in Canada, and no one could figure out what it was. And for the longest time, I was thinking, these guys are whacked. Like, I don't have cancer. I'm healthy. I'm, playing hockey. Yeah. So I was in disbelief, and especially because no one could put a finger on what it was. And so eventually it made its way to Johns Hopkins, and they figured out the nature of the disease, and it was the 21st diagnosis for this specific cancer in
Oh
recorded
my
history.
goodness.
Yeah, and yeah, it's ended up being this mix of lymphoma and leukemia, and the treatment course for it was 4 years. So I was in,
Oh,
yeah.
oh,
So yeah, so I had just started grade 9, and they were telling me that I was going to be done chemo at the back end of grade 12, and um, it was a pretty big shock to the system, and it was a very, very difficult period of time. And I'm thankful for my mom, my dad, and my family for always being there with me through it. But uh, I do think it was a point in my life that really shaped my outlook and what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. There was this series of treatments where we would be in the hospital for 3 weeks doing this like 3 liter bag of methotrexate.
oh,
And I had about 5 of those stints. They were really, really long periods of just absolute the most discomfort you could feel for weeks on end. And uh, through that period of time, I did a lot of self-reflecting. I had a lot of time to sort of think about, when this gets done, what do I want to do with the rest of my life, and uh, what direction do I want to head in? And I I really thought to myself, the meaning of life is to give life meaning. And I would always, I was a big space fanatic. As I was saying before, I wanted to be an astronaut too. And so I ultimately defined my goal as uh, I'll know that I gave my life meaning if at some point I can be in a space shuttle in low Earth orbit, look down at the world, and know that I did something to affect it in a positive way. And as funny as of of goal as that is, it's sort of what drive my thinking. And I realized I wasn't going to be an astronaut anymore. NHL was out the window, so I was like, okay, to get to space, I'm going to need some money because this commercial space thing that's coming out, it's quite costly. So I figured, let's put the circle around inventor and try to come up with something that I could start a business from. And when I got to university, I started thinking, what would be the best possible chance I'd have at success if I were to start something. And I figured that the best thing to do would be to try to solve one of my own biggest personal problems. And since I was 11-year-old kid, I've had really bad back issues. And the way I deal with it on a daily basis was laying on top of a golf ball to alleviate tension in my upper back. And looking into it more and realizing what a significant issue back pain is, like it's the world's fourth most common health problem. It's the third highest spending for the US government for any medical condition.
I had no
What?
idea.
Yeah, yeah, it's a really big issue. And when you really look into what the back is, it's a super complex system. And the pain we feel throughout it is something that we've never had a concrete solution for. And so that sort of rang through my mind, and saying, like, how is it that this is such a huge problem for so many people, and I'm laying on the ground on a golf ball as a way to alleviate my pain?
Yeah.
This is probably, realistically, this is probably doing more harm than good most days. So that was the basis for thinking for our first product, Vertiball. I set it with the intention to just make an everyday product that could fit with your everyday life. You could bring to work, bring to school, you could bring everywhere, and just make your back totally accessible so that you, wherever you were, whatever you're doing, you would have total control over personal muscle care, where
Yeah.
you wanted to apply the pressure and how much pressure you want to apply. And that's sort of the way it started. Yeah.
You know what's so cool about the whole thing, and what really made me think a ton of what your product was doing, was the fact that it came from your own experience. It wasn't, I'm just trying to make money. It's Hey, Gary, I look at Gary here on the screen here because we just interviewed someone that said you got to work from your goal, not toward it. And I love how you said inventor, put the circle around it, and then you worked that way and went after it and make an impact. And you had said something too, that you wanted to make people's lives less painful. And that became part of that inventor, that creed, right? It was really cool to see it going. Now, for the audience too, what really struck me is Curtis started this bad boy company when he was 22, something like that.
21, yeah.
Oh my goodness. And this is not that many years later. So you're what, 24, 25 right now?
I just turned 26 a couple weeks ago.
Oh my freaking days. I think I was still in diapers when I was in 26, man.
One of the things I think is amazing is that I look back, and when you're a freshman in high school or ninth grade or whatever, I always laugh, like if you're dating a junior and you're a freshman, that 2-year gap is massive, and like I guess my perspective is, you come in, you're just getting into high school, and you're dropped with this thing that says for the next 4 years, basically your entire high school career, you're going to be getting treated for cancer. I mean, that's a lot to throw on a kid. How did you? How do you think why you successfully navigated that and came out on the backside with so much ambition?
Looking back at it now, I find it pretty hard to believe how optimistic and happy I was the whole time, considering how intense the whole experience was. Like, there were long periods of time where I couldn't really even walk up my stairs. I was so messed up from chemo. I had, I wouldn't even know how many surgeries. But yeah, it was just a really high intensity thing. But my parents, they're the two best people in the world, and they were there through the whole thing. And it's crazy, sitting there and then seeing your parents and just feeling so bad because they would do anything to help you in that situation, but there's absolutely nothing they can do except for give you love and and just be there. And I think just for them, keeping a positive attitude was really at the forefront of what I wanted to be sure I did every day. And we just always kept a positive attitude through the whole thing. And I've always been a really curious kid, like whether it's space, science, technology. So I would spend a lot of days doing research on the future. And back then is when I learned about Elon Musk, and he's sort of over the past 10-15 years become a really big hero of mine. And just seeing the way that he looks at the world and what is important and the purpose of it all. And it's his ideas have sort of spurred some thoughts of my own. And through that period of time, when there were some really bad days, I would think, what is the purpose of everything, and what happens after you die? That was a big question for me at one point in my life. And I've never been a religious person, but one thing I know for sure is we know that math works, and the first law of thermodynamics is energy can't be created or destroyed. So if we believe in that, then that means that we must believe that there's something that made this. And whether it's, whatever you want to call it, entities, God, the universe, and, something, there's a purpose to this. And I think the purpose is for, conscious beings like us on this call to try to find harmony in life. And, just in knowing the things that bring you happiness are, love, joy, being with the people you care about, and the things that make you sad are pain, discomfort. And so I feel, let's say this is a simulation or a test. I think that their goal is, whoever or whatever made it, is for us to find harmony in all that we do. And I think with that in mind, it's easy to believe that whatever it is out there, that they've got your back, and that whether everything happens for a reason or if it doesn't, that there's a purpose to what we're doing. And I think keeping that in mind, through good times and bad, is a really important element of it, for sure.
I'm being schooled by someone that I could be a dad to, man. Well, first law of thermodynamics: energy cannot be destroyed. Man, I forgot that lesson so long ago, and I wish I would have remembered that lesson. That's huge, man. That is absolutely huge. And just the fact that you found the inspiration in the tough times that you went through, man. There's some people, you can see it. I do coach rugby, and you can see exactly at a point when someone completely quits, they completely give up. And then you have the other players that have, and you probably saw this in your hockey, they will not give up. They're there for the person. They're right there backing everyone up, and they buoy the rest of the team. And quite frankly, that's exactly what I'm seeing is the strength of Symbodi is the fact that they have you as someone that is amazing. So I don't know what to say, Curtis, because at that young age, I can't believe how much stuff you've been through. And,
I appreciate that.
To me, the company itself is a byproduct of the person that you are. But unreal, man. Unreal.
So, I have a question for you, though. Kind of around what you're saying, Mo, too, is so you're obviously had, whether what you went through caused you to be a deep thinker, or whether you were just naturally a deep thinker and that kind of accelerated the process. I always look at kind of deep thinkers. There's those that just keep on thinking and just think and think and think. Then there's those like your Elon Musk and Curtis Kennedy that take those thoughts and leverage them to do great things. So it's obvious to me, I'm doing the timeline in my math. You probably didn't go all the way through college. I'm just guessing. I don't know. I'm assuming that you don't have business background. I'm just guessing. How does one go from like, I've got an idea to create something, to actually getting it done? Because I heard a while back, and this was just an example on something else. If I told Maurice right now, you can have whatever money you want, but you need to create a skateboard from scratch, he would not be able to do it. So you're obviously, you know what I mean? It's kind of a weird thought, but you went from like getting radiation treatments in high school or whatever to a very quick thing, having a product in hand that you are now taking to the world.
Oh, you should have seen their booth. It is going to the world.
How does that happen for someone at such a young age with very little training, very little experience?
Well, I actually think being young and not having kids and not having a mortgage and not having all these things that would potentially push you away from risk is very important. And so the element of being sick, I think that sort of pushed me towards wanting to do this and believing that I could is I had this thought, I'd do my research, and like the studies show that people that do excessive amounts of chemotherapy, that your life expectancy goes way down. And I was like, okay, well, if I have a finite amount of time here, and maybe it's not as long as most people, I got to get right to it and just start learning what I'm doing. And
that's huge.
In the university comment, so I did miss the vast majority of high school. I went to the back end of grade 11 sometimes, and then grade 12 treatment lightened up enough that I could get going again. But it left me missing those fundamental years at the start. Left me in a position where the core elements of math I really wasn't good at. So I went to school to study mechanical engineering afterwards. They sort of just pushed me through high school. And when I got to my first year, I realized, holy crap, I'm like way far behind everyone. Just just basic factoring, which is, standard set of tools that you need to know in engineering. I didn't understand. And so I quickly realized I'm not going to be a good student here. I got a potato processor. Like, I'm not a very quick thinker, but I'm a methodical thinker. And, through that period, I said, okay, I'm likely going to graduate at the bottom of my class. I don't want to really be handing my resume out into a pile that, all these people are better than I am. But the thing you learn in university, I think what I took most from it, and I'll stop there. I didn't finish. I'm 6 courses short, but at some point maybe I'll go back and get it. But the biggest takeaway that I got from school was really, you can learn anything that if you have the right questions to ask. With the internet, we have such an amazing tool to figure out anything we need to. Like, when you guys were growing up, if you wanted to learn something, you'd have to go to the library and find a book, right?
The microfiche, man.
yeah. Or the barroom debate. That's something I wish we still had. You guys would debate about a point, and someone would say, okay, yeah, you're probably right. But now, if there's an argument, someone just whips out their phone and figures out the truth of the matter. Really, we have the tools to learn absolutely anything. I had zero work experience going into this, but I had a computer and Google. And so, I learned about 3D printing. I bought my own 3D printer. I learned about 3D modeling, and I learned how to do 3D modeling to design the products. And I learned how to find factories and learned how to get money, and it was all done through Google. So I'd say whoever's the best Googler can get pretty far with it. Yeah.
You're right though. It's amazing how there's so much opportunity out there now with the power of the internet. And the people like Maurice and I, we're the last generation in my mind of the before and now when it comes to kind of technology. Like, it hit in our prime, when computers came out. I think I was a freshman when we got our first computer lab in high school, that type of stuff. Because now you can source stuff from China. If you would have asked me when I was 21 years old to build something and have someone in China make it, I look at you like you were from the moon.
I'll even do you one better. I remember when email first came on the campus and Gary wrote me, dude, you get this? I go, yeah, dude, this is weird. That was our first email. That's how old we are, man. It was so funny. It was so funny. But what you just nailed though on the head though is not only are you able to create something that from thought to product, but the other thing that you said that just nailed me is you have a finite amount of time, get to it. And we all have that finite amount of time. Yours was expedited, of course, but it's amazing how much we take for granted as far as the time that we do have. How is it well spent? And I look at the time that you have, from the time that you had cancer to now, that it's unreal what you've been able to accomplish. I mean, again, I was there at your booth. I saw how many people that were around you and were making it better. You're 26, man. It's so cool. So my question is, I have 4 kids, and what would you tell someone that they might not be in the same circumstance that you have, that you had gone through? What would you tell them to do with their time? And how would you light that fire under their rears? And I'm not, I'm not telling you to be my kid's babysitter, but I sure like to have your advice.
Yeah, yeah. So I think happiness is all about having time to do the things that you love. And for a lot of people, Monday morning is a really bad point because they got to go back to their job that they don't necessarily love. And I think that's the power of starting something for yourself, is you have the opportunity to think, what gets me excited? What do I love learning about? What are the experiences and things that I'd like to do, and I think would be an enjoyable area to focus my energy on. And if you love what you're doing, it's really easy to wake up on Monday morning. So it's not necessarily the product that I love so much. It's the process of building them and thinking about what's next. And we've got things that are coming out in 3 years that we're starting to work on now, and do conceptual design work for. And it's just awesome working with people and getting inspired towards a common goal. And I think if you define that goal for yourself and you truly care about it, or you're passionate about the process, it makes it really easy. I don't pull out my laptop at 8:30 at night while I'm watching a movie because I have to. I do because I want to. I want to get the things done that will let me get to the next thing that I'm excited about. So understanding that now is as good of a time as any to start, and just identifying what it is that gets you excited. And if you pick that area and you try to come up with your own novel solution, and I think that's a big point, is there's all these industries and products that have they're improvements off of what's already been made, but there is a real opportunity. The principles, it's called the first principle thinking, where instead of thinking analogously, where you look at what has already been built and then you build on top of that, first principle thinking is a concept that speaks towards thinking of a problem, boiling that problem down to its fundamental truths, and then building outwards, not considering what already exists. And it's likely that the limitations and constraints that have prevented an industry or product segment from going in one direction can be solved if you try to think about the problem differently. And so you might be passionate about something and look at an industry and think, oh, well, it's very saturated, there's all these big companies doing XYZ. But just because that was the path they took for the innovation at that point in time, and it's built from there, it doesn't necessarily mean it was the best path to take out of the gate. So if you can think right down to the foundations of a problem and something that you're passionate about, I think it's very likely that if you care about it enough, you'll have what it takes to see it through to the end, and really enjoy your time with what you're doing.
Oh my
Bombs
gosh.
of wisdom, man.
Dude, I was going to go mic drop. Man, Curtis, this is fabulous. I know we're highlighting your company, but we wanted to make sure that the audience got to know you as the individual, because when they understand where you came from and just the basis of your thinking, it's amazing to see. Again, I use that word way too much, but you are amazing in the fact that you've taken all this stuff that you've learned in tremendous adversity, and you've shown what the mentality should look like when one is going through that. And you found the opportunity in the midst of probably the cruddiest time you could possibly go through, man. No doubt about that. So when I say mic drop, that is a mic drop, man.
And I think you also hit on something very, I don't know, I think it's very interesting. You're talking about your first principle thinking. Is we live in an era where there's innovation from all sides and all angles. And so what someone may have done in their creative process even a year ago, now there's new tools. You know, a big thing with you is tools. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so part of that first process thinking is, okay, what new tools are available to look at this from a different angle? And I never really thought about that before, but that's pretty profound.
Yeah, absolutely. There's, you know, all the time there's new technologies and new industry segments that, you know, you can explore from a different lens because of something that's already been made. Like, you know, look, like this concept of the metaverse. I don't know much about it, to be honest with you, but what will be possible for innovation through there is, you know, that's just been opened up from just a new way of thinking from someone about this new digital landscape. And I personally think the room for new ideas and new industries is limitless. There is no bounds to creativity and thinking outside the box. And so the big thing is trying not to get trapped in the box that has already been, you know, made and what's already been done.
That's awesome.
It. No, I think that's a great place to end right there, Curtis, because words of wisdom are that's where it has to end. That sucked what I just said, but whatever.
I just want to say thank you to your grandfather for planting some seeds. Thank you to your parents. Thank you to Elon Musk.
Big thank you,
but thank you for sharing. Like I said, I know that you said this isn't something that you've really talked about before, but I really appreciate you opening up and sharing some of your experience, because I think it is important for people to see the real picture and the real struggle and how people, even just the thought process of how to overcome something like that, I think is big. I think a lot of people can learn from it. So thank you.
Yeah, guys, thank you so much for having me on. It's been really great, and yeah, what a pleasure. Thank you so much.